Here's the thing, you guys. Women are very strong. They're very amazing. I love them. But women are weak. You know, women are fucking weak. My manager, Tim, he's like this big. What's up, Izzy, for a living? And you know, he could probably up Ronda Rousey.
Sheen Strickland is the face of the middleweight division. You heard it right. Each time Strickland grabs a microphone, Dana White takes a deep breath and prays to God, and when Sheen defies him,
Yeah, I don't give a about that belt. I just want to make motherfuckers bleed.
Dana asked himself the same question we've been asking ever since UFC 293. How the hell did this happen at UFC 297? The new champion attempts his first defense of the title he took from Adesanya, and the challenger got his spot by knocking out Robert Whittaker. Yeah, a middleweight championship showdown is right around the corner, and no other Sanya or Whittaker in sight.
Yeah, oh, I got a nerve. I see I hit a nerve there.
Yeah, you did hit a nerve, you bitch.
Happened out of nowhere, but that's the middleweight division in a nutshell. Welcome to the Loughmedia. We're officially on the road to UFC 300, and I see a few exhausting deeper dives coming my way. This pay-per-view, however, is a little on the fight night level, but that one at the top is something I'd be happy to talk about all day, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. At the start of 2023, Alex Pereira was the champion. Israel Adesanya was guaranteed an immediate rematch. Robert Whittaker was the championship guardian. And then there were the lowly middleweight contenders, those who were just not good enough to compete with the three monsters, roaming and guarding the mountaintop. Not a single one had a prayer. Especially these two. I mean, can you even imagine? UFC 287 went down in April, and Israel Adesanya finally found that one shot. Shocking, but in hindsight, it made sense. UFC 290 in July, and the middleweight division shifted, following one of the most surprising upsets in recent memory. Surreal, but not total insanity. But then UFC 293 in September, and total fucking insanity.
No! Israel got beat. Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
Insane.
He fucking
Craziest
did it.
upset I've ever seen.
That wild motherfucker is the middleweight champion of the world.
In the span of a few months, the 185-pound division was flipped upside down, turned inside out, and twisted in the most insane ways possible.
Whenever we started swinging and banging and he threw some punches, and I was like, man, that was really like predictable. That was really easy to see. Like, that came from a mile away. Like, I'm a way better boxer than you. Let's fight.
He didn't get touched.
Not touched.
He didn't get touched. He got like a couple of jabs snuck in and barely touched him.
But the path ahead was clear. Sheen Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis. With gold on the line, Du Plessis made his UFC debut in 2020, and he is undefeated in the promotion. 6 fights, 5 finishes. Stellar record for a prospect. But Dricus was never seen as a championship-level fighter. Too wild and fundamentally flawed, they said. Despite the unbeaten run and entertaining fights,
He's a very physical fighter, but there's a ton of holes in his game. He can't make the mistakes in his fight with Whittaker that he made against Derek Brunson.
victories over Darren Till and Derek Bronson did little to convince the masses, but during all of this, DP got Israel to notice him. The potential grudge match opened up a path for Dricus, one more victory over any other contender, and the title shot was certain, but Dricus wanted to earn the spot, and so he challenged Robert Whittaker.
Robert Whittaker is one of the most technically proficient fighters we have in the UFC, not just the middleweight division, skill for skill.
Whittaker had only lost to Israel at 185, and he was the heavy favorite to win. Against yet another unfortunate contender, he was too technically sound and just levels above DDP, the slow and sloppy brawler who had kept fluking wins. But his luck was going to run out against Whittaker. Well, I was wrong. We were all wrong.
Again, I'm not defending myself because I was just flat wrong on Du Plessis. I think he leveled up.
Because didn't look out class in any second of the fight. He hung in there with a former champion, manhandled Whittaker on the ground, and eventually, in the second, he got it. A knockout victory against Bobby Knuckles of all middleweights. The unlikely contender was now definitely getting that title shots, and the post-fight scene with Israel was another stamp on his claim.
I'm African, but I ain't no brother of yours, son.
Now all he had to do was fight once again in a couple of weeks. That was the plan, but Dricus was injured, and he said no, the main event slot for UFC 293 in Australia was still vacant. Adesanya was definitely going to be a part, but who else?
I was a little bit disappointed that Dricus' fight fell through, but it wasn't for long. I'm happy to get Sean. I begged the UFC to give Sean this fight.
Sean Strickland had a rather terrible 2022. He was knocked out by Plot On and lost a close decision to Jared, but he began 2023 on a good note, beating Nassourdine Imavov in January. And I'll boost my go Medov in July. I'm sure the UFC wasn't too thrilled, but Strickland was the only choice, and the main event for UFC 293 was set. Adesanya versus Strickland, as expected, slaughtered Israel in the lead up to the fight.
It's an uphill fight. Tall man, tall kickboxer, dude, but I'm ready to give it to the gods to fight the Chinaman, dude. I'm ready!
But as long as Israel embarrassed him in the Octagon, no one was going to remember what Cien said or who he was, and there was no chance in hell that Strickland would pull off the upset of the year. All right, I'm done believing anything when it comes to MMA. I know nothing. That one knockdown and Israel was lost on the back foot as Strickland walked him down and beat him in almost every exchange. He was so confident that in the fifth, Strickland yelled at Israel to give him a fight, because the main event of UFC 293 wasn't a fight. It was a domination, something none of us saw coming.
He did it. I'm shocked, just like the rest of the world. Sean went in and did his thing, and he did what he said he was going to do.
He beat one of the greatest middleweights of all time.
New champion and new contender at 185. And it didn't take long for the UFC to set up the most obvious fights: Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 297. Strickland was happy with this, as he considered DVP their rightful contender, so we were in for a pretty respectful build.
Your dad doesn't have shit on me. I'm gonna show you what it's like to beat you. I mean, every childhood memory you have is gonna come back.
Until that happened, the press conference started with class, but it came to an end with Strickland threatening to take Drake's soul.
I will take your fucking soul, you understand me, you fucking pussy?
The first time Cien was visibly affected, and that exchange actually made him mad enough that he looked Dricus in the eye during the face-off, and then these two got into an actual brawl at UFC 296.
I'm being told that Strickland asks Gilbert Burns' son to move. Oh, and
wow. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Out of nowhere.
I don't know what humans you can sit Strickland at still, but definitely not Du Plessis.
And here we are now, the champion against the rightful challenger. But there is a little extra edge now. Championship match with bad blood, gold in the modern UFC, and having gone through the story, we move towards the matchup in Strickland. You have the fundamentally sound and defensively aware striker who had the cardio and the experience to punch you in the face for 25 minutes. Opposite to him, you have Dricus Du Plessis, a Zerker who doesn't give a shit about your defense. But as demonstrated in his most recent fight, DDP is far more technical and cerebral than we all thought. If you can hang with Whittaker on the feet, you're good enough, and everything the guy throws, punches, kicks, ground and pound, is devastating. It's cardio against power. Dricus lends one big shot, or Strickland sets the pace, puts the challenger on the back foot, and it is a long and exhausting slaughter in grappling. We really don't know. Dricus has shown a lot more success with his grappling. While Cien barely wrestles, rumors are though he is a pretty competent wrestler himself, and he has only been taken down a handful of times at 185. Given the animosity though, I think Dricus will only shoot for takedowns when he sees no success on the feet, and that brings up the last points: psychological warfare. Intended or not, it is that play here. Strickland is definitely pissed off, and you've never seen the champion this hostile and aggressive. He usually looks around, but as mentioned before, he stared at Dricus with a look that could kill. To be honest, but as we've explored, this middleweight fight is MMA at its finest. Two fighters in their prime, two of the best middleweights on the planet, fighting for gold and glory against the backdrop of hatred and bad blood. The unlikely champion versus the unlikely contender, a clash we never saw coming, at least on this stage, the biggest stage with the championship on the line. After the Adesanya era, this is the matchup that pushes the middleweight division into the next stage. Who saw this coming? But history has shown us 185 is just that chaotic. You can expect more of that when these two finally meet in the middle of the octagon.